Hello, my name is Teali Edwards, and this is my presentation on interrogations and false confessions. Let's go. I named it a catchy title after Under Pressure. Dun dun dun. All right, so let's dive into our main topics. Main topic number one, how specific interrogation and techniques can increase the likelihood of individuals giving false confessions, and how interrogations can be an environment for error. Our main topic number two is the psychology behind confessions. This is understanding the person and examining how different factors can affect one's ability to resist pressure. And also analyzing the psychological distress innocent people may come to believe when it comes to confession, or may come to, create under confessions. This topic's more based on innocent people that falsely confess, not just confessions in general. Main topic number three is confessions and their consequences. This is kind of reflecting over the reality of confessions as a whole, the consequences behind them, and how it affects our justice system, some of the cultural view behind confessions and interrogations, and how we can, at least my little take of how we can do better, or things we can implement to make a more healthier interrogation and confession environment. Because they do, at least what you'll see later on, is they do have some growing evidence for their harm. All right, so let's dive into number one, the link between interrogations and false confessions. So, at least within the content slides here, I wanted to analyze the two main methods that are used. The first one being the Reed method. The Reed method, it focuses on accusations. You're guilty. I just want you to tell me how you did it, and if you did it yourself. It's the model of it is much more aggressive, it's much more accusatory, there's much more pressure added, and naturally this creates more psychological stress, at least I believe, but the statistics will also show that case as well. The peace method is their main focus is more on gathering evidence. So you have someone who's placed there, and it's much more participative. It's open-ended questions, and it's just gathering information on what people say, and from there pushing on what needs to be further done in terms of action for the case, so that we can have a healthy result. The Reed methods, surprisingly or maybe unsurprisingly, is used in 75% of the US. So it's majorly used in the US, and it's the main interrogation tactic used in the US. And the peace model is primarily used in the UK. So you kind of also see the contrast of two different countries and how they implement interrogations and confessions. Reed is 9 times more likely to elicit a false confession when you're comparing against the peace model. And then also some tactics I wanted to go over as well was when Perillo and Kaysen, a source that will be cited later on, they did a study where they took a bluff set, and they found that 65% of false confessions or 65%, there was 65% higher likelihood of false confessions with bluffing, and 59% higher when they introduced false evidence in the case. So the psychology behind confessions is psychological perspective and why innocent people confess. From a obvious perspective, if you put someone into a high stressful environment and you assume they're guilty and you're pressuring them to get answers and you want them to confess, that's going to put some psychological stress on someone. And it's definitely going to put scenarios where you don't get the right results, or at least the right results to present to a case in my own. Uh, so from a psychological perspective, there's really three main reasons why people confess. There's compliance. So when you start to support, you just say whatever you need to get out of the situation. You want to get out of the situation fast, quick. You want it to be done and over with. So you just comply. Internalization is when you might hear the story, and you might say, and you might establish certain beliefs that fit the scenario or the situation to kind of, as a way of you just kind of internalizing the case in at whole. And confabulation, which I feel like is the strongest one, is you just completely creating false memories, uh, so that you can fit whatever situations around that. And this is a very strong link, and a very and has a high amount of psychological stress in order to come up with false memories. Increasing factors. Other increasing factors I wanted to also present is just high stress, mental illness, things like low IQ, isolating a subject, suggestibility and false evidence all can link to uh, uh, innocent people confessing. So, more information on this is children are 3 times more likely to confess when you come in comparison to adults when taking the study. And they include that suggestibility uh, also had a link to increased false confessions. When we look at 60 real confession cases, at least with the Leo and O'Shea study, they found that majority of the suspects came from people who were either not adults, were involved in coercion, or were mentally impaired. Confessions and consequences, legal implications and systemic consequence of false confessions. So the study, like I said, of the Leo O'Shea found that majority of the confessions, the courts assumed that the confessions were true. Using the Don Flores case, which was used in class, there was no physical evidence, just the witness description, and they believed it with little to no information, which is clearly a flaw within our legal system. So, from my personal opinion, I think reform is definitely needed when we take in more ethical models like the peace method that I stated above. I think we need to reform some of our aggressive and accusatory tactics uh, and see what we can do and come up with a better scenario that's more ethical and effective. Uh, I also think that transparency, the specifically when we have a lack of challenging confessions because we take it as a say all be all when it comes to confession, when it comes to evidence in a case. I think that there needs to be more challenges towards confessions, and we should present all the evidence and taking all the pieces of evidence when we're coming towards a decision within a case. So that is my conclusion. False confessions are real, and the way we interrogate and assess suspects has an effect on the results of the confession. Overall, there's just many psychological aspects and that come into play when it comes to false confessions and the reality of our legal system. The end. And then this is my sources that I cited. Boom, boom, boom. Feel free to look. Thank you for watching my presentation video, and I hope you enjoyed.